3, 2, 1. This is the Phantom of Many Topics. Today is August 28th, 2022. We are here in sunny downtown Kansas City, Missouri at the World War I Museum, the National World War I Museum in Kansas City. And let's do the big focus, wow, on those words. National World War I Museum. Okay guys, see you inside. Actually, this is part 2 of the video. We came up the steps and you can see that big tower that was there and the 2 mausoleum buildings off to the side. Before we go inside, I actually wanted to show you a better look of the skyline of beautiful downtown Kansas City on this nice and sunny 82-degree day in the summer of August. And there's the Maya exposition down there in the Natural Arts Museum, and then you can see downtown Kansas City. Okay, and then we'll swing back and then we'll head back down inside into the World War I Museum. Thank you. Okay, this is part 3 of the video, and we're actually in the museum itself. There's a big cannon here that's from like the 1800s, and over there's a timeline chart. We'll start over here with some of the interesting headgear. The first one is a Russian hat. The second one is a Prussian German hat. The third one is also a German hat. The fourth one is Austro-Hungarian. And then the one with the pomp is a high-ranking officer of the Prussian army. There's a German, Prussia was a section of Germany, or an area. And in 1871, the German Confederation united into one country. And over here is a Russian pennant for Tsar Nicholas II. Then you have some posters on the wall. I'm gonna do the pullback so you can see it better. This is in lower resolution. Shout out to our friend Chelsea Perspective for co-sponsoring this video, along with Michael Chapman and his dealership, Michael Chapman Chevrolet. Okay, and we have the global war map, and you have this big howitzer, this huge howitzer, and we'll go right over there. We might detail a little bit of the timeline. I play a video game called Verdun, and so we might go look at 1916, which is of great interest to me because that's when our video game takes place. I'm gonna pause it for now and we'll restart. Okay, so this is part 4. We know the story, which is in June of 1914. The Archduke Francis Ferdinand, who is the Crown Prince, goes to visit Sarajevo. His driver makes a wrong turn, and one of the 7 assassins from Serbia decides to take him out. And after he's dead, the Austro-Hungarian Empire wants reparations from Serbia. They say no, and so Austro-Hungary declares they declare war, and then Russia declares war on Austro-Hungary, and then the Austro-Hungarian ally of Germany declares war on Russia, and then France jumps in, Great Britain jumps in, and so we have World War II between the, well, they weren't called the Allies, they were called the Triple Entente, and then the other side was called the Central Powers. And so There's a lot of people here today. It's a Sunday. Ah, look at that little Russian pistol, or Belgian pistol. Looks like the one in our video game. There's a video game that's on PlayStation called Verdun 1916. It's a wonderful video game that mimics being in the trenches, and that's really how I got interested in all of this. The Belgian helmet I've seen, and that one, the Prussian helmet I've seen, and then there's a machine gun over there. I never got to use that one, but again, there's a lot of people here, so I'm gonna have to do this more in sections. Okay, this is part 5 of the video, and this is showing the chain reaction of the number of nations that were involved in World War I, known as the war to end all wars. And of course, 20 some odd years later, we had World War II, so it was not the war to end all wars. It was just the beginning of several more wars. And right now there's a war in the Ukraine between the Russians and the Ukrainians. And but we won't focus on that. We're only focused on World War I. And that looks like a child's uniform. That one looks more distinguished. Oh, this was a boarding place for children, and I guess that was a cadet, child cadet or something. Here's some money. We got some currency. The first one is the pound of Great Britain. Of course, we recognize that one. Number 3 is Portugal. Number 5 is France. Number 6, that's another German Deutschmark. Wow, 1,000. There's a great inflation after World War I, but right now we're still in the pre-war stage, or just in the beginning. And some of the other currencies from other nations: Russia, Greece, Japan. Oh, that's the Japanese yen. We got Luxembourg, we got Italy. So those things are panoramic sights. Oh, they're an early version of a binocular, believe it or not. Kind of weird, huh? You look at, see the bottom left-hand side, and then you peek up, and it has like 2 mirrors, kind of like a submarine periscope. Special shout out to Chow. When we say submarine, we say Chow. She served aboard a submarine. Now, this is a Sunday, so there's a lot of people. I'm, again, particularly interested in the year 1916, so I'll kind of creep my way over. But for now, I'm just going to do these videos in sections. Okay, so we're skipping right down to 1916, February 21st. The Battle of Verdun begins. The Battle of Verdun is actually a series of battles near the French fortress town of Verdun, which kind of guards Paris. And Verdun, the place for execution. National honor will be defended. So the Germans invaded Verdun, and that's how we got our video game. Okay, so you have a lot of interesting things happening throughout 1916, and then you have the Battle of the Somme, which is another famous battle, if you've heard that. And that's a British offensive, and it starts in the fall, around September. Verdun is actually recaptured. French recaptures Fort Dumont, which is in my video game, the main fort at Verdun. And I'll show you some of the pictures. Oops, I'm sorry.
You're okay.
Okay. And so it's a little bit crowded today. It's we're just bumping into people. Sorry about that. And anyway, so Verdun was a very famous battle. He was at the time just a colonel, but later on he became a field marshal, and his name was Henri Pétain. Henri Pétain. Henri Philippe Pétain. And he was the hero of Verdun because basically he won that battle against the Germans. He was really a caring general. The troops really loved him because a lot of generals would just treat the troops as cannon fodder, whereas he treated the troops as people who are valuable, and he had empathy for them and their squalid living conditions and so forth. And so in the end, he became a hero, but kind of like Benedict Arnold. In World War II, he decided to side with the Germans and ruin his own reputation. So, things change. But as we get to 1917, that's when the Americans will come into the war, and that's on the other side of the room. I'm gonna pause this for now. So right in this cabinet here, we have either the replica uniform or the actual uniform of the leader of the German military forces, which was Hindenburg, but really his chief of staff, who was Ludendorff, was the man who really ran the day-to-day operations. There's some explanation about him, and here are some of his hats and medals. Again, I don't know if this is real or replica. Over here in this cabinet, even Japan joined in the war because they joined on the Allied side, the Triple Entente, because Germany had some concessions in China in the province of Shandong and Qingdao. If you've ever heard of Qingdao beer, that is from German made. So the Germans taught the Chinese how to make fine beer, and eventually the Japanese in 1919, after the war, took those concessions. And there is a famous protest in 1919 on May 4th called the May 4th protests in China that started a revolution. The Chinese National Revolution had already started in 1911, but on May 4th it basically kicked off everything between China and Japan, setting up World War II. And over here we have some, looks like this. It's Australian. Yes, I thought it was Australian, but I just wanted to make sure. Australia joined, of course, on the side of the Triple Entente, which is the Allied side. You have the British uniform here, and then we had a lot of people from India, because India was also a territorial colonial possession of the British Empire. So you had India, and then here's some French uniforms. Italian. I'm sorry, it looked like French, but they were Italian uniforms. Italy joins on the side of the Triple Entente, and I'm sorry. Oops. Just gonna wheel around over here. Then, yeah, these are the French uniforms. This is all in our video game too, so pretty interesting. And so trench life was really bad.
The rattle of the machine gun fire
so you have
makes a very strong impression on us, barely 20 years old as we are.
This is a trench.
But these things also harden us up for what is going to come.
I've actually stuck my hand in
this
here
war.
because there's a wall.
We are only defending ourselves and our Germany against a world of enemies who have banded together against us.
But I wish this wall wasn't in the way. Maybe that was on purpose, because it would have showed us what trench life looked like. But I'm sorry. Swing around. Okay, so you got the Kaiser, this little pointy helmet, or his troops. Oh, there's an NCO helmet that the Germans wore. That's in my video game as well. And, okay, so some of the trinkets. They had pipes, they had canteens, cooking equipment, forks, knives, because you lived in those trenches for years on end, years. Here's an actual cannon. Okay. So again, we'll pause it here for now and start up again. Okay, next part, we'll start here, and this is Russian uniforms. There's a little mini Russian model machine gun from 1910. Of course, the war didn't start till 1914. That's a Russian uniform, Russian imperial uniform. And here are some sniper rifles. Sniper rifles. Because people sniped at each other in the mud, in the fields. See, look, there's a sniper. And so you have another thing there, and you got, what do we have here? Barbed wire. Barbed wire was invented to keep in cattle, but eventually barbed wire can really hurt people as well. So, barbed wire. Oops, sorry. And I'll swing around here. There's some more. Oh, gas masks. Okay, so the Germans started using gas, chlorine gas. And so the French also then retaliated with gas, and everybody wore gas masks. Hitler was supposedly hit with gas masks during World War I. He was a corporal, he was a runner, and they said he went crazy. But who knows if that's the truth or not. Who knows? This is a machine gun. German light machine gun. Wow. And the one above says MG08. Sorry, there's too much glass reflection here. More machine guns. More machine guns. And we'll stop the film here. Now we're at the French trenches. You can see this is like a glass photo. Then the French also had helmets and uniforms and canteens and pots and pans and cigarettes, coins, binoculars. We're gonna just poke our head into here. Again, I don't know why they put it behind this wall.
He trained frequently. The water could neither seep down nor run off on this impermeable, almost flat terrain. Our trenches served as its channels. After every downpour, we had
trench warfare, trench life. So, yeah, we have to look at
German
this
machine
trench
guns
through
had
the
been
wall.
jittery all night. And now they sprang into action, firing short bursts at
Very
random.
horrible.
We were
lifestyle.
stranded on the plateau.
Horrible lifestyle. Okay, so we'll end it here. Okay, this section is called the Long Grave, and it was a trench of despair. Shells of all kinds of calibers kept raining down on us as we tried to fight for our lives, and sometimes you get buried underneath these logs, or sometimes it provided shelter and it stank, and there were rats and throw up and vomit and urine and all sorts of nasty things. And then over here, people, there were photographs. This is, well, the Civil War was the first war to be photographed, but by the World War I, the photography had improved by a lot. As you can see, there are many examples of this here. And then, oh, okay. So one of the forgotten things about World War I is the women's contribution. The women's contribution to World War I is significant because they played all the nurses, or they were the nurses. Like you have the story of what, Florence Nightingale and everything else, and so there was a French version of her too. I don't remember her name. Here's a wall of all the losses and numbers of losses of people who fought in World War I. And then the women also made the food. Women made the food and made the contributions. And there's some more photographs here. And then I'm gonna stop the film here and then we'll go on. Okay, this section is about grenades. All different kinds of grenades. Different kinds of grenades that are used in the war. This one right here looks like the one in our video game. So, but of course there were different types. And these were all the different types. All the different types that you can see. And then there's a little, like a light show table, Kansas City during the war. See, and then there was a lot of propaganda, you know, fight for Uncle Sam, all that kind of stuff. Explosives. You got the machine guns. This is the first war where machine guns came into heavy use. Arsenal. We're not Arsenal, we're Chelsea or Fulham, but we're not Arsenal. Okay, so, and then camouflage came into use as well. Okay, in my other video I said in World War II the Germans were the first one to really use it. Well, they had a primitive form of camouflage here in World War I. And here are some of the badges. These are Canadians. These are all Canadians, and then over here is British, and then over here at the end is all still British. It's all British. British. And then you have some knives, fixed bayonets. If you got close to your enemy, you run out into the trenches, fixed bayonets. Fixed bayonets. Okay, and then you had these are some German pistols. This was the 1908. Okay, but they were used in the war 6 years later. You got shoulder straps. These are all German. Oh, the 14th Jaeger Battalion. That's in our video game. Alright, did you recognize that? Tommy boy, did you recognize the 14th? Okay, well. Okay. So we'll stop it for now. Okay. So the next section here is air warfare. We're in pullback mode. You can see those are the guns on the aircraft itself. And in the beginning, aircraft were just used for reconnaissance, and then later on they started bombing, and then later on they started putting machine guns and on the airplanes and started shooting each other. And then of course every pilot had a pistol just in case he landed in enemy territory and had to defend himself. Okay, so here are some of the famous ones. Ooh. Uber Lieutenant Erman Goring, 22 victories. Later he would become someone of significance in World War II. Okay, but the famous one, the forgotten one, is Rene Foch, 75 victories. But the most famous one in history, and everybody knows him, is the Red Baron. I can't say his name, but we'll just call him Baron Manfred, the Red Baron. 80 kills, 80 kills. What an incredible man, and he is now known for frozen pizza. Okay, so we're gonna swing around this way to the war at sea. Okay, so the British Imperial Navy, of course, is the most prolific navy in the world. But the German had U-boats, sinking ships, and they sank a lot of ships, and then they started just sinking supply convoys indiscriminately, and then that's how America got brought into the war in 1917. And here's some naval uniforms. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm on the low resolution. That's okay, we'll just stop the video here. Spring of 1917, this is when America comes into the war. This is what Americans were reading. The unrestricted naval warfare policy of Germany, U-boats singing American supply ships heading for England and France. And that's what brought us into the war.
The war has always been over there. That is clearly changed.
And then, of course, the Zimmermann telegram, which was a German telegram asking for Mexico's help in case
in contrast to war-weary Europe,
there would be war.
During this same period, pulses with energy, and for many, optimism. War production for the Allies has spurred the growth of the nation's industrial economy. As barons of industry seize opportunities in steel, oil, lumber, and coal, social reformers push to change the conditions spawned by the growth of industrial cities. In fields and factories, from suffragettes to civil rights activists, most Americans are preoccupied with their own destinies, and the majority sees no reason to fight Europe's war. While President Wilson makes efforts to broker peace in Europe, he tells Americans it is not their war, and most agree.
Sorry, I had it on low resolution.
Touched many Americans. Tensions are rising.
Ooh, I don't know if you can see. Yes.
The U.S. is a country
Look at the
of
model of
10 million
battlefield
of
that they
German and Austria-Hungary.
brought.
A large Irish and prosperous German-American population backs these forces. Millions of others back the Allies, Great Britain, France, and Russia. Some Americans see the war as a class struggle, the folly of emperors at the expense of common people.
So now we're on the other wing of the World War I, which is beginning in 1917. The United States of America enters the war. And you have President Wilson and his 17 points of interest, or 14 points of interest, sorry. Okay, and here we go. We got uniforms. Uniforms for my shipmates. Uniforms for the Army. That's a cannon. Do your duty, join the Marines. Help them by, say, buying war bonds, buying war stamps. Okay, Ford Model T, 1918. The earliest one I've ever seen is like 1914 maybe, but anyway, so, and then there was women's suffrage during World War I think. And here's some, uniforms. Okay. And war camp. And tent. A tent. And then you had this. They're not Clydesdales, but they are big horses. And that's a description. Sorry, I'm getting in the shadow. And here is some of the uniforms of our military men. And some of these are British as well. Okay. And then here is a chart of the divisions. and special units. Special units. And then here's some sort of gadget where we can focus in on the photographs by looking up and in clearly. Wow. Woo! Look at how high resolution that is now, huh? Okay, no, I'm just kidding. It was not in high resolution. Okay, so looks like I'm gonna have to take a little break because my camera's heating up a little bit. So see you on the other end. Okay, and we'll do a pullback on the Ford Model T from the front end. Okay, and then let's go to regular resolution. And these are women's uniforms. Again, as stated earlier, the women's contribution, the YWCA, the volunteers, the nurses, the doctors, they made a significant contribution. The Red Cross, these are all ladies' uniforms. Ladies' uniforms from the Red Cross. And then some more ladies' uniforms. Ladies' uniforms. Whoa, she looks like she was in the Navy. She's in Navy Reserves. Woohoo. Okay. And wow, women's uniforms. Okay, who's this portrait of? We'll pull back. I think it's Pershing. It is Pershing. This is a famous American general. His name is General John J. Pershing, a great hero of World War I on the American side. And later on, nuclear missiles were named after him. And on this side, we have the same version of the table of explanations. This was showing some of the Zimmerman telegram. We were talking about that earlier. So there was a point in the war where Germany invited Mexico to join the German side in case America decided to go to war. And of course, Mexico didn't do that, but the invitation kind of sparked the war. So these were two of the uniforms at the time, and typical rifle that we were using in the video game. And some documentation here. Won't really look at that. Talked about the earliest tanks. We had significant aircraft of World War I, including my favorite, the Red Baron. The Red Baron. It's now just frozen pizza to us, but the Red Baron was a famous aviator, like I said earlier. Okay, so you have the rifles here, and who's this uniform? Forgotten. Okay, this is a Russian uniform, and some more. What's this? What's a German uniform? Oh, this is the Red Baron, and so this was a Lewis machine gun, I guess. These were on the aircraft. And that's his uniform, or a replica maybe of his uniform. Red Baron's uniform. Although he didn't really become the Red Baron until pretty late in his career. He painted his plane red to scare everybody. And I would say if you paint your plane red, then everybody can just see it, right? From far away. American Field Service. Okay. So over here, so near the end of the war, 1918, Treaty of Versailles brings home everybody in the armistice that ended on the 11th hour of the 11th day of 1918. And this is how the empires collapsed there was an uneven peace. It's called the Treaty of Versailles, and it made unequal conference, yeah, Paris Conference of Versailles, and so you had President Wilson, you had Prime Minister David Lloyd George, and Georges Clemenceau of France were the big three, and they dictated terms. They said that Germany had to become a democratic republic. They dethroned the Kaiser and made him go to Belgium for the rest of his life. And oh, okay, over here is a triage area, a hospital, makeshift hospital, and I think this part is the end here. Okay. Oh wow, this is a big trench. Looks just like my video game. You're stuck in this trench and there's no way out.
Shot by enemy machine gunners.
Then
There were 17 of them, and nearly a dozen more laying head to heel down the road, shot in the back after they had gone by.
yep, looks
The
exactly like my
Marines
video
had
game.
done wonderful fighting here. They stopped the Huns and started to drive them back. They recaptured the town held by the Germans.
I'm not sure if there's. Oh, this is gonna end. Wow, early model. Early model. Okay, and of course later on they became more impressive, but this is pretty impressive as it is. Okay, I think this is the end of our entire show. Thank you for watching.